Hello, my name is Franco Tenelli, and this is Science of Singing. In this video, I explain the role of the science in understanding human machine. One of the frequently most asked questions is how to improve their technique, make their voices sound bigger without forcing. And in this program, hopefully you will see how complicated it is if we try to look at it at the pure scientific or mathematical point of view. I'm not going to present you complete formulas with precise calculations, but rather show you complex relationship between those variables. Sometimes I receive letters from you, and they sound like this. I saw your video about low larynx, but when I lower my larynx, voice becomes darker and also woofier. This video will explain the complex relationship of the voice-machine properties. Most of the methods mechanically emphasizing on the importance of the larynx or the importance of the resonance or the importance of that and this, but these people forget these properties interact with each other. Problems with such methods that they are emphasizing on certain elements, forgetting that every such element is important. That's what I call a little knowledge. And as you know from an English proverb, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. By using math, we can see that only through a complex approach we can understand human machine. The result that science is trying to achieve by creating different methods and emphasizing on this and that can be simply replaced by vocal teacher. I repeat, good teacher's ear is more important than so-called methods. For simplicity, I will not use real formulas and mathematics, but just to understand the relationship of those variables. So let's try to understand the relationship between chiaroscuro, shape of the throat, vocal folds or vocal cords, air compression or support, this time without taking into consideration a psychology, just a voice machine. Let's call chiaroscuro as CH, scuro as SC, and chiaroscuro as CS. Or for simplicity reason, let's call it an X. Let's call position of the larynx as D, as how deep it is located, and W as how wide is your throat. So D and W, for simplicity reason, we call Y or Y. So the Y is the shape of the throat. Let's call properties of the vocal cords as V. So as length and thickness, L and T. For simplicity, let's put it as V. So the V is the property of the vocal cords. Let's call pitch as P. P with the little C is a head voice. P with the S is a chest voice. And P and X, chiaroscuro. So we have four different variables, complex in themselves, X, Y, V, Z. In other words, we have four-dimensional matrix. So you see, in chiaroscuro case, X represents chiaroscuro sound will equal Y, V, and PX. Again, reminding you that Y stands for the shape of the throat, V stands for vocal cords property, its length and thickness. And eventually PX, which is a chiaroscuro pitch. Now, if we place a psychological factor over this, so we definitely have five-dimensional matrix. By psychology factor, I mean, what do you think about yourself you are? Not that the real machine and the real bone structure, real length of the vocal cords, but what you want to be. You want to be a tenor, you want to be a bass baritone, which one really makes you tick? This is a very important thing, but we are not going to touch it here because it will make a very complex matrix. Let's look at chiaroscuro again. It depends on the throat shape, Y, X, V. So it's the vocal cords type, the type of compression or the type of support one's using. From these calculations, you see that simply lowering larynx without changing other properties won't form a chiaroscuro sound. All the properties have to match for chiaroscuro resonance to work. Just lowering one's larynx or increasing compression alone won't work. Theory of voice resonance is much more complicated than a singer can imagine. Being a master of resonance simply means that a singer can produce with much less effort a much bigger voice. Very few people can imagine that 100 people can destroy a big bridge without special equipment. Nevertheless, soldiers are never allowed to march on the bridges because of the possible resonance match. So initially small force, if it vibrates in a resonance with the bridge, can destroy it. Majority of you who love opera get their inspiration from live broadcasts or DVDs or CDs. Most of you who love opera probably never stand in front of a real opera singer singing and experience amazing power human voice can possibly produce. And even less of you experience huge but free of tension voices like Franco Corelli's. I have to assure you that the huge resonance has nothing to do with oversized singers, as most of you probably think. Traditional view that a big, overweight soprano must have a big voice accordingly. This misconcepts often bought by opera directors. You see, for opera directors, the physical aspect of the hero on stage linked to the looks and the size of the body rather than a voice. Mario del Monaco, the great dramatic tenor Otello, was rather a short man, and his director gave him only very lyric roles, forcing Mario to sing against his natural voice and abilities. For some strange reason, real huge voices like Del Monaco, Loritz Melchior, Oriana Pertile had small or normal-sized bodies. I remember one young tenor came to me to ask me if he's a Helden tenor. He was very tall and big, but when he auditioned for me, I thought to myself, you're rather a Handel tenor as a composer than a Helden tenor. Of course, I didn't tell him that, but I told him that he's a fine lyric voice. He was really disappointed with my assessment, and I never saw him again. Because of this terrible ignorance that goes around in opera, we have so much miscasts. Unfortunately, today's opera priorities are not the same as they were in a golden age of opera. The voice itself used to be a character, and it was the most important thing. And of course, looks also were important, but they always had secondary quality. Today, as you see from my logic, looks are character, and a voice becomes a secondary value. People don't like to listen anymore, they like to watch. Honestly, those who like to listen don't go to opera anymore, they go to concerts. You will maybe be surprised, but I think that popularization of the opera played its negative role on a true opera. The greatest illusion on this was created by true genius Franco La Traviata. But if you think, oh, I will not buy this, this illusion is not powerful enough for me to confuse me. Well, I'll give you my example. When I saw Zeffirelli's movie, I was an opera student or my third year. I was so stunned by this movie that I rushed into my maestro's place asking him, what do you think about this amazing movie? And the shocking answer was, great movie, poor vocals. Believe me or not, I greatly disagreed with him at the time. These genius experiments of Zeffirelli with opera and movie slowly formed an opinion for other opera directors that voice is really secondary. Looking appropriately, that acting is much more important than beautiful singing. Unfortunately, today's tendencies are that appropriate looks are more important than appropriate voices. That's why Nemorinos today singing Othellos, because they have look like Othellos, not because they sound like Othellos. The question may be why I'm defending acoustic, pure acoustic way of singing. I like jazz singers who use microphones. Why to be so fussy about it? Besides, any stage art is a combination of illusions and true emotions. Or why should we sing opera acoustically, not using mics? The answer is quite simple. Because of the amazing impact of the acoustic resonance on audience. It's a totally different from any amplified resonance. The acoustic sound is rich with harmonics and basically has infinite properties, where the microphone sound, even in the best technological sets, will sound infinitely less than original acoustic one. I own the most amazing electronic instrument today, which is called Korg Kronos X. When I play piano, I have a full sensation, at least I used to have the full sensation when I first tried the piano. It sounds like Steinway. It sounds like Steinway in the best hall in the Carnegie Hall. And it's really a nice sound. It's an amazing sound. Then after a few months, even earlier than that, I discovered the problem. No matter how beautiful the sound is, it's the same sound. You cannot really play around with it. It has no individuality. Or in simple words, acoustic sound contains an information that is impossible to transmit without a loss, no matter how advanced equipment you have.